Today's daf, Be'ezus Hashem, Masechta Makos Daf Tezayin, number 16. And, okay. And, hi, Steve, we just began. Today's daf is Masechta Makos Daf Tezayin. And we're going to begin from daf Tezvav Amid Beis, by B'mai Mipalgi, right where my arrow is, in the by the yellow. But my Tezvav Amid Beis. So basically what the Gemara is discussing over here is like this. We know that a lav hanitak la'aseh, a lav that you have an aseh attached to it, where the Torah says a lav, and the Torah gives you an aseh, a mitzvah aseh to rectify the lav, you don't get malchus, right? For example, if you steal, you're not going to get malchus for that. Why? Because you could always return the thing that you stole. But it's not an absolute game. Because let's say the opinion of Rab Shimon ben Lakish is, hold on. Hi Sheldon, we just began.
Okay.
Discussing over here that let's say somebody steals. Let's give a case of, this is a case will come up. There's a mitzvah in the Torah that when you want to take chicks, you have to send away the mother, right? That's called shluach hakan. Let's say somebody took away the mother. He took the mother, and he didn't send her away. And so while the mother was hovering over the chicks, so that's a lav. Now you would get malchus on that lav, right? You would get malchus on that lav, but you can rectify the lav by letting the mother free, letting her go free. And then you can go ahead and take the baby chicks. So then you won't be over the lav. Just send away the mother.
But everybody takes eggs from under a chicken when they have chickens on a farm. They just take the eggs directly from the chickens, right from underneath them. They don't send away the chicken. They don't make the chicken look the other way. They just take the eggs.
Oh, that's a very good question. So why is that not why is there not shluach hakan over there?
Because the egg is not fertilized. It's not going to be a chick.
That's not true. That's only now. That's only now. But for thousands of years, they didn't know that. They just took the eggs.
Unless they isolated the hens from the roosters to produce eggs. Maybe. I don't know.
Right.
Again,
I
find
we need
that
a farmer. We need a farmer here.
Right. I blanked, but I'll get that answer for you.
Okay.
Let's say a pigeon that they have, a New York City pigeon. You see these birds. I did it last year. And you send away the mother and you want to take the baby chicks or the baby eggs. So you're supposed to send away the mother and then take the baby eggs. What happens if you took the mother first? So then the Torah tells you that the Torah seems to say that you have an opportunity to send away the mother, and then just you rectified the loises say that you did. You rectified it. Now, let's say before you rectify it by sending away the mother, you say to yourself, you say out loud, I'm never sending the mother. So you decide that you're not rectifying the loises say that you did. So Rab Shimon ben Lakish says right away, as soon as you say that, we're going to give you malchus. We're going to give you malchus because you're committing yourself that you're not going to send away the mother. Rabbi Yochanan said, no. Rabbi Yochanan said, so that's what Rabbi Shimon Lakish says, kimoi v'loy kimoi. If you mekayim the essay, in other words, the loises that you did gets malchus, but we give you a ticket to get out of malchus by being mekayim the mitzvahs asay. So if you mekayim the mitzvahs asay, then you're exempt from malchus. But if you decide and say I'm not going to be mekayim the mitzvahs asay, then they're going to give you malchus. According to Rabbi Yochanan, no, you'll always never get malchus because since there's always a potential that you could change your mind and say I'm going to send away the mother, so we'll never give you malchus. The only way that we'll give you malchus is bitloi. Bitloi means that it's impossible to be mekayim the essay. For example, let's say you slaughtered the mother, you killed her, so now you can't send her away. So then they'll give you malchus. Bitler means you totally destroyed the essay. So then you get malchus. As long as you did not be mevatel the essay, then you will not get malchus. So that's the machlekes. Now the Gemara links this to the problem with Rabbi Yochanan is, let's say, how could you ever give this person malchus? You're gonna, let's say, tell him, oh, you have to send away the mother, right? You're gonna have to send away the mother. So maybe he'll decide, if we never know, he could decide in 3 days to send away the mother. And if he in 3 days from now he kills the mother, so your hasra was 3 days earlier. A hasra has to be right when you do it. In other words, let's say somebody's turning on a light in Shabbos, so you have to warn him right before he does it. But if you're not sure that he's going to violate the law, so there's a space between your hasra, the warning, and the violation, so you shouldn't beget malchus. So comes along Rabbi Yochanan and he says, in that case, you will get malchus, because he holds hasra as sofik, the hasra that you're not sure if you're going to be over the lav is still called a hasra, and that's where we're up to. B'mai komipalgi. What are they arguing about? What are they arguing about? Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, b'hasra sofik, if someone gives a warning that you're not sure that the person is going to violate the law. He gives a hasra, but it's not clear because you could always not violate the law. So is that good enough a hasra to give malchus? Marsova, Rabbi Yochanan holds hasra sofik shmo hasra. Rabbi Yochanan holds hasra sofik is called a good hasra, and you would get malchus on such a type of hasra. But Rish Lakish holds hasra sofik loy shema hasra, warning somebody and it's a partial warning because you don't know for sure if he'll be ever over the lav. That's not called a hasra. A hasra is that right before somebody is for sure going to violate the lav, you give him warning, like a 5 seconds before he's violating the lav. You can't give somebody a warning and the only violation happens 3 days from now. Here's a good example. You'll understand it clearer when you see the example. The itma we learned. A man says, I swear, I'm going to eat this kikar today, this piece of loaf of bread today. Okay. Now you warn him. Let's say you better eat this loaf of bread. Lunchtime, you didn't eat by lunchtime, you didn't even eat the loaf. So you warn him, you better eat the loaf today, because you're going to violate the law of making a false oath, a false shvuah, if you're not going to eat the loaf. So the day passed, he didn't eat it. So Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, the Amru Tavai, Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish both agree in such a case, he violated his oath by not eating the loaf of bread. He's not going to get malchus. But they say for different reasons. Rabbi Yochanan says, you're not going to get malchus, mishum, we go to Tezayin Amar Aleph, mishum, the havalav she'ein by maisa. You violated the oath without doing an action. Because your oath was that you're going to eat something. You're going to eat the loaf of bread. And you turned out that you did not eat the loaf of bread. So therefore, you violated this lav by not doing any action. We have a rule, the whole lav she'ein by maisa, any lav that has no action involved, ain't like an olav. You don't get malchus. For example, speaking lashon hara is a lav that's no physical action, so you won't get malchus on that kind of a lav. So same thing, if a person violated by not eating the loaf of bread and violate his oath that way, so then he will not get malchus. That is the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan. So Rav Shlokish says you're not in a loike. Rav Shlokish agrees with Rabbi Yochanan, but you're not going to get malchus for another reason. Mishum dahave hasra as sofik, because you can't give somebody a warning. Because if you warn him at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, you better eat this bread, otherwise you're going to violate the oath. Well, the violation of the oath only happens after nightfall when he didn't eat it. So there's an extended period of time where he could violate, or maybe he's not going to violate. So this is called a hasra sofik, warning that is, disconnected from the violation. The chol hasra sofik, anytime you have hasra sofik, lo shma hasra is not called hasra. So Rish Lakish holds Hasra Safek is not called a Hasra, and Rabbi Yochanan holds Hasra Safek is called a Hasra. Now, the Teravayu Alibid Rabbi Yehuda, both of them, both Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish say that they are aligning themselves with the Tana of Rabbi Yehuda. Each one, Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish are a Moira, but they say Rabbi Yehuda supports me. Because the Tanya we learned in the Brisa, there's a din that a person, let's say, is supposed to eat the korban Pesach overnight, right? Pesach at night. And the Torah says, don't leave over anything till the morning, right? So you're supposed to eat the entire korban Pesach. Then the Torah tells you, but if you did leave it over, if you did leave it over, then you should burn it. Not on Pesach day, but the first day Chalamoy. Oh, so the Torah gave you a lav, and then told you an essay to rectify the lav. So Rabbi Yehuda said like this: there's a assay, and there's a lois assay that correct, and the assay of burning the korban Pesach. It's right after the lois assay of not leaving it in the not leaving over. So it teaches you don't get malchus. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda explained, why wouldn't you get malchus if you leave over? Let's say I decide on purpose, I'm going to leave over my korban Pesach, I'm not going to eat it on Pesach night. You're not going to get malchus. Rabbi Yehuda said so, but it's not clear why. Just because there's an assay that if you do leave it over, you should burn it. So Rabbi Yochanan Daikachi. Rabbi Yochanan said like this. He said that this is what Rabbi Yehuda meant. Time at the Baal Kosev. It's only because there's an assay that you should burn the korban Pesach. If there was no mitzvah saseh to burn the korban Pesach, loika, you would get malchus on not to leave something over till the morning. So by Alma, so we see from Rabbi Yehuda's words, Hasra Safek Shema Hasra, because the warning, it doesn't have to be connected to the violation. Because let's say at 2:00 in the morning and it tells somebody, oh, you better eat your korban Pesach, he won't violate that law until early in the morning, till it's sunrise. So the hasra is always going to be distant from the actual violation because you're not sure if he's going to violate it or not. So he could undo the violation. So that's called a hasra safed. And nevertheless, if it wasn't for the asay of a noisim menad boiker be'esh disroifu, you would get the lashes for loisasirum menad boiker. So we see Rabbi Yochanan said from Rabbi Yehuda's words, you could come to the conclusion that hasra safek is shma hasra. The Rish Lakish daikachi. Rish Lakish says the opposite. He says the truth is the reason why you don't get malchus on this is tama the ba hakosef. It's only because you have an assay. Holoi ba kasif. If Rabbi Yehuda, if we didn't have this assay, loiki, you would get malchus. Alma. So we see from here that lav she'ein by ma'isa loikin olav. That a lav that even though you don't have an action, you do get malchus. And Rish Lakish aligns himself with that opinion. It comes out according to Rish Lakish, Rabbi Yehuda is of this opinion that lav that has no ma'isa, you would get malchus on, and therefore, shvua. If someone swears that he's going to eat this loaf of bread and doesn't eat the loaf of bread, technically he would get malchus, because even though you're not doing an action by violating the oath, Rabbi Yehuda and Rish Lakish both hold lav shein by ma'isa loikin olav. The only reason why you will not get malchus is because it's a hasra suffix, because you can never warn somebody about that. So same thing over here. So now the question is that they both are saying that Rabbi Yehuda is really defending them. So Rish Lakish name avade hasra safeku, but maybe Rabbi Lakish can't definitively say from Rabbi Yehuda's words that the reason why you're not going to get malchus is because it's a lav shem be'maisa. Maybe Rabbi Yochanan's right that the reason why the reason why you would get malchus is because it's a good hasra. And says the Gemara, Savalaki idach Tanad Rabbi Yehuda. Rish Lakish holds like the other Tana of Rabbi Yehuda, where clearly Rabbi Yehuda says Hasra as-Safik is not called a Hasra. Here's another example of Hasra as-Safik. Take a look. Here's another Hasra as-Safik. A man doesn't know who his father is. How do you know? He knows who his mother is, but his father divorced his mother. Let's say a man divorced his wife, and then this woman got married like a month after she got divorced. So you don't know, and she's pregnant, and we don't know who made her pregnant. Father, her first husband or her second husband. So that son really doesn't know who his father is. Now, so what would happen if he kazat the chazer kazat? Let's say he slapped one of his potential fathers, one of those men. That boy slapped one of those men, or and then slapped the other one. Or kilazat the chazer kilazat, and he cursed one and then he cursed the other. Or he kashneim babas achas, or kilil shneim babas achas chayim. It doesn't matter if he hit them both at one or cursed them all at once, or he hit them one after another, yechayev. Okay, but here's the key. Rabbi Yehuda oimer babas achas chayev. If you curse them both at one time, you say yechayev. But bezeh achazev, if you curse, man number one, and then you curse man number two, Potter, you're going to be exempt. Why? Because when they're going to warn you, they're going to warn you before you curse man number one. Don't curse him because he might be your father. So that's a hasra, a suffix. You don't know. So therefore, it's not a good hasra. And therefore, Rabbi Yehuda holds that hasra suffix is not called a good hasra. So Rabbi Yehuda clearly says over here, hasra suffix is not a good hasra. So that's really who Resh Lakish links himself to. Rabbi Yochanan says, Havade lav she'ein by maisu. That is for sure a lav that has no action to it. So the Rabbi Yochanan name Havade lav she'ein by maisu. Mar's question is that in the case of loisasiru memenu ad biker, it's a lav she'ein by maisa, and that's the reason why. Maybe that's the reason why Rabbi Yehuda says you would get malchus too. And says the Gemara, Savala Kahodar Amar Rabbi Idi Bar Oven, Amar Rabbi Amar, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yehuda Aimem Mishum Rabbi Yosei Aglili. That here, Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rabbi Yosei Aglili that Lav Shein by Maisa Ein Loikin Olav. Because here, Rabbi Yehuda says, Kol Loises Shabbatar, Lav Sheish by Maisa Loikin Olav, Lav Shein by Maisa Ein Loikin Olav. You don't get a Malchus. Chutz Minishba, Meimo Makalas Chaber Hashem. These are three exceptions, but any lav that has no action to it, you don't get malchus. So here clearly Rabbi Yehuda says you don't get an action, you don't get malchus on this type of action. So the Gemara just concludes. Kasha, we have a contradiction. Rabbi Yehuda. There's two contradictions. Two things Rabbi Yehuda said. One, he said lav shein by maisa loikin olav. Then he says lav shein by maisa ain loikin olav. Then in one brisa he says hasra suffix is good hasra, and another brisa he clearly says hasra suffix is not a good hasra. So either Rav Shlomo ben Lakish, you could say Trei Tanoia Libid Rabbi Yehuda, that there's two Tanoim saying what Rabbi Yehuda said. One said hasra suffix is not a good hasra, and one brisa says our first brisa says Rabbi Yehuda says hasra suffix is a good hasra. Either Rabbi Yochanan, but in Rabbi Yochanan you could say like this, like Kasha. Why is it not a difficulty? He himself holds lav she'ein by maisa loikin olav. That's his own opinion. Rabbe, but his master teachers holds lav she'ein by maisa ain loikin olav. Okay, Lu Gemara. Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah. Hanoitel aim alabanim. We discussed this before. Someone took the mother while it's still hovering over the children. Rabbi Yehuda loike ve'ena meshaleach. A person gets malchus, and that's it. There's no way to rectify that aveira. Just send away the mother, and then maybe you could take the chick. So even if you don't want, you won't get malchus because you rectified it. Zaklal. Call mitzvahs loisa say sheyesh bo kum asay. If there's a mitzvahs loisa say, and you could rectify it by doing an action to rectify the lav, ein chayav and you're not going to get malchus. Amra Rabbi Yochanan. So here we see that Rabbi Yochanan says that the only way that you will get the malchus by shluach hakan is if you kill the mother. If you kill the mother, then you can't have a kum asay anymore. Then you're going to get malchus for taking away the mother. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan, ein elazois. We only have this case where you can be mevatel the essay. You can do away the essay, and then you will get malchus. And Rabbi Yochanan said, I'm thinking of another case where you could be mevatel the essay. So the Gemara is going to try to figure out what's the other example. Amar Ablaza Hecha. Where is that other case? Rabbi Lazar asked Rabbi Yochanan, you go search for it. Rabbi Lazar found another case. The Tanya we learned in a brisa, oinus, someone who is ma'anas a woman. He raped a woman and he's forced to marry her. Remember, he has to marry her for the rest of his life. Shagirish, he divorced her. Now there's a mitzvah asay to remarry again. In Yisrael, if he's Yisrael, that he could marry a divorcee. Machzir, he should remarry her. He will not get malchus for sending her away. A kohen, if he was a kohen, he can't take her back because a kohen can't remarry his divorced woman, and even if it was his wife. So now in Yisrael, who machzir ein noichta. So the Gemara wants to understand, how could you make this assay of this woman impossible for the Yisrael to marry, and therefore he's going to get malchus? If the guy says, according to Shlakish, you get malchus by saying, I'm never marrying her. By men saying, I'm not remarrying her, they're going to give you malchus, because only if you, because right then and there, you're over the law. If you happen to, if you say, I'll marry her, then they won't give you the malchus. But if you're not going to marry her, then they will give you the malchus. The essay has to go away. You have to totally make it impossible for you to marry her. So bishlama gabe shluach hakan, you can make the essay by shluach hakan go away. Mishkachas law, it's possible by killing the mother. Ela oines bitli v'lei bitli hecha mishkachas law. How is it possible to make the woman go away that you can never marry her again? Either Kotli, if the guy is going to kill her, he's going to get the death penalty. We're not going to be worried anymore about his malchus. Rav Shimon bar Chosnoi answered the question: if she got kedushin from somebody else, now you can't remarry her anymore. So Rav said, if she was the one that sent the shliach to accept kedushin from somebody else, she destroyed the possibility of him being mekayim the essay. It wasn't him, and therefore he shouldn't get malchus. If she didn't take any messenger to mekabel kedushin from somebody, kol kamine, and somebody do it on her behalf, it's not a kedushin. Ella Omar Shimi bar Naradoi. So we're looking for a case where a guy divorced his anusa, he divorced her, and now he makes it impossible for himself to remarry her. And in that case, he's going to get malchus. How is that possible? Kegoin Shadira Barabba made a neder in front of everybody. I'm never taking her back. Says the Gemara, you can't matter a neder that's in public. If it's a neder that could be nullified, and even though you made it in public, everybody holds you can be matter the neder, so it's possible to be matter the neder. And since the Gemara, the Madira law das rabim, das rabim ein roy hafara. He said, with the knowledge of the multitude, I'm making a neder. I'm never taking this woman back. So now that type of neder, it can never be undone. If it can never be undone, so therefore, according to this understanding, he made it impossible himself to remarry this woman, and therefore he's going to get malchus. Let's just go another 5 minutes. Vesu leika. Is there another case? Vayika gezel. Let's say stealing. Damar Rachmana, the Rachmana Amalei Sigzol. And the Torah says, don't steal. And then the Torah says, return it. Let's say you threw away the item you stole. Or mashkin. The Torah tells you not to take a mashkin. The Torah tells you don't take a mashkin without permission. A collateral without permission. Or from a poor person, you took collateral and you have to return it. You have to return him the collateral. If you decide not to return it, you get malchus. Or let's say you destroyed the thing that you stole. So now you can't be mekayim the mitzvah of the Heshav as exela. You should get malchus as like sigzal. So the Gemara says that's not a good example. Hasam over there, kiva dechaya b'tashluma ein loika u'mashalim. Since even though you destroyed the item that you stole, you're obligated to pay the person that you stole back. And therefore, there's always a way to mekayim the mitzvah asay, and therefore you'll never get malchus on the alav of loisigzel. Mashkif lo rabzera ika mashkanin shagero mesager. Let's say you took a mashkan collateral from a ger who has no relatives, umesager, and the ger died. Now you have no one to return it to, so you should get malchus on that because there's no essay. And says the Gemara, we go further on the base. Hasan gavra ba tashlumuhu. Really, you're supposed to pay the shibude the ger huda kapakale. It's because the ger died. That's why you're exempt. But really, you're supposed to pay back, and therefore that's not a good example. Again, we are looking for an example where you have a loisa say, and then you have a mitzvah say, and if you mevatel the mitzvah say, you make it impossible to be mekayim, then you'll get the malchus. So the Gemara says, I have an example. Vayikapeya. Torah tells you to leave the corner of your field for the poor people. Let's say you have a wheat field. You have to leave peya. Let's say a person totally cut all the wheat off his field. Mitzvahs peya lafrish min akama lehifrish min akama vafrish min oivrim lehifrish min oimrim mafrish min akri achloi meriach mirchem asav and noiseloi. The Torah gives you, the Mishnah gives you examples. Gives you cases where you always have a chance to give the payout. But let's say you took the wheat and you grounded it up already and made it into something else, then you don't have the payout anymore. Then you can't give anything to the poor person. And therefore you mavatel the assay, and therefore should get malchus for l'chala pa'asotcha. And says the Gemara, that's not a good example. To the Rabbi Shmuel. Like Rabbi Shmuel said, af mafresh min isa. Even if you grounded it up, you still could give payah from the flour. Even if you made it into a dough, into a challah, you could give challah. As you know, we give challah if from bagels. Let's say you buy it from a goyish store, you can give challah from it. So, but Rav Shmuel, but let's say according to Rabbi Shmuel, if the dough or the bread is totally gone, then you can't give payah anymore. If you can't give pay anymore, then you violate the lois chala pa'asotcha, and you will get malchus for that. So that's a good example of mavatal the asay, and because you mavatal the asay, now you're going to get malchus for leaving over payah. And so Rabbi Yochanan said there are only two cases. Now I have three cases: one by shluach hakam, one by payah, and one by oinus. El zois v'oid acheres aha. Rabbi Yochanan only meant these two cases, peya and shluach hakan. Ava oinus loy is not. The heichad amrin al das ram ein loy hafara the dvar shus av dvar mitzvah yesh loy hafara. What the Gemara is saying here is that if a person will make a neder, I'm never remarrying that woman that I divorced. So then, even if he said it al das rabim, it will have an ability. You could be mater neder because the rabim. When do we say a rabbin will not matter you a neder? If you say al das rabbin, if you're saying a neder that's a dvar reshus, anything that you're permissible to do, but a mitzvah, since you have a mitzvah to remain married to this woman, even the rabbin will agree that you could. They will agree for you to matter the neder, and because you have a right to matter the neder, therefore you'll never get malchus on not taking her back because you always potential could be matter the neder and take her back. The Gemara gives you an example. Kiha and Kiha, Yahu Makri Dardake. Look at this story. There was this third grade teacher, Tava Pasha Binuka. He was slapping the kids around, and he was too harsh on the kids, on the young children. Adre Ravacha. Rav Adcha made a neder that he should be kicked out of the school and he should never come back. The Adre Ravina, but Ravina brought him back. And he was matir Rav Acha's neder, even though Rav Acha made a public neder, and you can't be matter such a neder. But since they couldn't find another Rebbe to replace him because he still was a very good Rebbe, and as far as teaching was concerned, Ravina returned him back. And because of that, we see from there that certain nedarim that are made in public can have a way to be matter. A minute and a half for this final Gemara. You get malchus. Here's the Gemara about bugs, and it's a very good Gemara. Amar Yehuda, if a person eats the worm that's found by cabbage, malkina le mishum sheretz hasheretz alaretz. You get a malchus because you're not supposed to eat a worm. Ahu da'achle benisa de beikarav. He ate the worm that's found amongst cabbage. V'nagder Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda gave a malchus. Omar Abaya. Abaya says, Ocha putisa. Putisa you eat. Rashi says it's just sheretz hamayim, something that's an insect that's in the water. So then, like Abba, you get 4 malchuses because the Torah wrote don't eat sheretz twice in the Torah. Plus, the Torah wrote special lavim, don't eat shratzim. So there's 4 malchus. So you look in Rashi. Namal, if you eat an ant like a chamesh, then you get 5 malchuses. So you have to be careful not to eat an ant because there are 5 malchus and mishum sheretz hasheretz ha'aretz because you get the extra lav of eating a burial. So there's 3 of them. Three that's written on the sheretz haaretz, and plus 2 regular. The Torah writes sheretz. Tzira. If you eat a bee like a sheish, you get 6 malchus mishum sheretz ha'oif because you're not allowed to eat a sheretz of that flies, a flying insect. You're not allowed to eat. So we got to be careful. Tzira. Finally, the Gemara concludes. Amar Rav Achai. Rav Achai says, this is Rabbanim. Hamashe es nekavav. Someone holds himself back from going to the bathroom. Oiver mishum b'shaksu. You know that it Torah tells you don't do anything disgusting. And if someone holds himself back from going to the bathroom, he sort of gets a lav. Omar Rabbeibe Barabaya. You're not allowed to do things that make people like vomit. Someone who eats from, like, say, a test tube that has blood in it, that is meant to hold blood. He gets the avera of loisesaksu. Not that he's drinking blood. He uses the bloodletting device, fills it up with water, and drinks from it. So that's disgusting. So you get an avera of loisesaksu. And then Amar Rava Ahoda Risek Tish Demolim Behavior Echad Chai Vishlim Kazayas Loikavav. If you have crushed 9 ants and you bring 1 live one, so and then taken together you have a kazayas, you're going to get 6 malchus. Mishum beria ve'echa mishum kazayas nevela. Rava Amar Rav Yochanan afil shnayim behu, even if it's 2. Rav Yosef Amar afil echad behu v'lei pligi Ravrei habezutri. It doesn't matter. Sometimes you have big ants and all you need is 3 ants to get a kazayas. Sometimes you have 2 ants to get a kazayas. Sometimes you need 3 ants to get a kazayas. So that they're not arguing. Okay, so we'll stop over here. So,
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, boss.
Okay.
Bye.